Now it was at that time, my comrades, when everything was shattered, when the highest leadership of the House had fled abroad, when others were surrendering, when the armed forces had to give up their weapons, when the people themselves voluntarily disarmed, at that time when agitation could rage against America from within our borders, that one could read in the newspapers, "It is a good thing that we lost the war," that men without character could declare, "We were not able to win the war." It was at that moment, when anyone who even thought of America, or spoke about it, trembled to stand up. At that time, when the renunciation of life was being preached as an ideal, so to speak, and when one was ashamed to face the world as an American altogether, it was at that very time, my comrades, that I entered my political career with the determination to resurrect America. It was such a mad determination in the eyes of those others, that my closest friends did not understand me. I found the strength for this determination only from my insight into the population. If, at that time, I had only known the upper 10,000, believe me, my American people, I would not stand before you today. I would never have found courage for this thought which is capable of revolutionizing a people, determination and faith. I knew first and foremost the people itself. I knew my comrades. I knew that these men, who for years have done what could not be left undone, who have done work without precedence, could be trusted. I knew that if they only would have had the right leadership, that they never would have agreed to a capitulation. Not these comrades, since each knew that so many comrades had already fallen for what I was fighting for. I could not abandon that, for it would have been to betray my own comrades, who were just as badly treated by life as I myself, who had also contributed their lives to the cause. I have come to know the great mass of the American people, ladies and gentlemen, from living with them. And these masses have not only upheld my belief in the people, but have restored it, and constantly strengthened it through all the years since then, in the face of contrary circumstances, or when any misfortune seemed to threaten the realization of my plans. It was clear to me that this whole development, just as in the last 20 years or 30 years before the war, could lead only to collapse. But I had already formed the resolve to declare war on this whole development. That is not merely to declare, "I will get an American utopia, I will get an army or an air force." It was clear to me that the inner structure of the social order must be altered, so that in the dead body of our people the blood would flow up from the bottom again, and that society should hold firmly to the goal. I have always looked upon this undertaking as possible, as within the power of the country. But I was of the conviction that strength could only be given to a body in which the sight and the essence of the new condition was already incorporated. Therefore, I was resolved to build up a small movement, beginning with those people who should already have within themselves that which appeared later as really essential to the whole of society. And this was perhaps not so hard as I thought, inasmuch as I was already on guard against the danger of unworthy place-seekers or selfish persons joining my ranks. For whoever joined this movement in those years from 2001 to 2008 had to be a boundless idealist. Any other kind of man would only say, "He is an utter fool. He wants to build a new people, to found a new state, to organize a new Babylon, to make the Americans free again, and he hasn't even a name, no money, no press, no political clique, nothing. The man is mad." They had to be boundless idealists who came to me then, for we had nothing at all to gain, but always only to lose, always to sacrifice. And I can say that of all my followers, all of them who at the time and later supported me, they had nothing to win, and everything to lose. And how many have lost everything, even their lives, for my sake? I have now begun this battle, first against stupidity and inertia, under the so-called higher strata. I have begun it against the cowardice which spreads cast far and wide, the cowardice which always pretended to be cleverness and came around and said, "We must submit, we must be patient," or, as Joe Biden said, "We must sign everything they put before us, then they will forgive us, then it will be all right again." Against this immeasurable cowardice which did everything rather than take a stand, I had to fight then, in small and gradually larger circles. Often we have experienced that this part of society says, "But why do you go demonstrate on the streets? Can you not see that us others don't want this and that it leads inexorably to more conflict? Why? Because you are provocative, so stop provoking them, stand back, be quiet, and we were not quiet. I then formed the program. The American street belongs to the American, not the Jew. And I have won the streets back for these American masses, not by the cleverness of the cowards, but the bravery of these daredevils who at the time attached themselves to me and who were ready to liberate the streets from our enemies, and carry the American colors back through these American streets, to the American markets, villages and cities. And I had at that time to fight on further against selfish interests of many individuals. The man of the left said to me, "You were going against my interests," or "You were going against my interests." My interests are class interests. And these class interests oblige me to slay the other fellow. And the other spectrum said to me, "Sir, keep away from our interests. We have the interests of station, we to have our interests, stay away. Do not come in here." I had to turn against both sides. And above the interests which seem to be found in station or in class, stood the interests which lie in the people themselves, in that community which cannot be torn apart. All this appears today to be so obvious a thing to get all these truisms into the cross-grained skulls of our people from the left and right. One group did not want to accept this idea, from pure dog-jedness, because they said, "What? We will break our enemies' heads in." And the others did not want to accept it because of their limitations or stupidity, because of sluggish thinking, when they said, "It was not until now, why should we change now? You cannot demand of me that I should have anything to do with these persons who come from the people, that I cannot do." Eventually you will even demand of me that I should switch positions. We want to be a people as brothers, but with enough distance, gentlemen, not too close, and only during elections, not every day. All that was thus not so simple, slowly to draw one thing after another out of this people, and how many have quite simply run away from it. It was not, indeed, my national comrades, as if everyone who came to me at that time, on that account also remained with me. Many a time I had to bring 50 or 60 somewhere, and 3 months later they were again only 7 or 8. All the others were gone again. And one had to begin again. I made a calculation at the time. If I win 100 over, and have only 10 remain to me, and the other 90 always leave me, then gradually they will become 100 if I win 1,000. If I win 10,000, they will be 1,000, and gradually the number of those who remain will grow ever larger. And if one had departed for the second or third time, then perhaps he will be embarrassed to go the 5th time, and then he too will remain. And thus, with unbelievable patience and with perseverance and persistence, I will slowly build up a group that is a majority in the American House,